Mrs. Brooks.
I just want to say, we're talking about these cities. Whether we like it or not, we're close to these cities in the Bay Area. I drive to San Jose 2 days a week because I can't afford to work here. And that's the reality of living in the Valley. If you're within a certain mile radius, you can drive out of town and get employed by someone else. And that's why those cities were included in the salary study, because there's a good chance that if Steve wanted to leave here or another employee wanted to leave here, he could drive 45 minutes, an hour and a half and get paid a lot more than this increase here. And that, I think it justifies those cities being in that survey.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Valentin.
Well, Mayor, it's unfortunate that we have to go down this road again with people wanting to make comments before you cut them off for a vote. So I would respectfully submit again that the discussion needs to take place and continue to take place until all the discussion is finished. So that should be a rule at this council, that you shouldn't try to cut anyone off before the council, the total council, has had a chance, and I don't care which council member it is, to make comments. So it's just the right thing to do. We don't have anything that precludes it. We're not going to have anything that precludes discussion. Discussion needs to take place.
Mr. Souza.
Well, I was going to cut my comments off short, and I've been told many times we keep going back and forth in this tick for tack. But, some things get said that just have to be corrected. And I'll stand by my words. And just because you don't like the survey, you don't like the cities, doesn't make the survey invalid. That's who you compete with, whether you like it or not. And I would wonder if this applied to the school district, if we would accept the fact that we ought to pay our teachers and our administrators there less because they live in this valley or Las Banas. I don't think so. I want them to be as high as anywhere else and get as much as they can for the service and get paid based on what their performance is. That's the way it should be. Okay? It shouldn't be, and you know what? This amounts to me to nothing but pandering and actually almost a split of the community. Now we're going to pit one group against the other over what I think, at least this is my opinion, and of course everyone's free to disagree with me. Here's a survey. It's before us. It's what it says. You may not like it, you may not want it, but that's what it says. And if you don't want to pay, whether it be this city manager or any other staff, what the survey says or what the market rate says, if we're able to do it, that tells me you're willing to accept a much lower standard than anywhere else. And I'm not willing to do that. That's all I have to say about that.
Mr. Faria.
2 points. First of all, the school district, I feel, aimed at me. School teachers are based on the state economy, not the local economy. So it's apples and oranges. The next point is, when this city can afford to pay its line-level employees the kinds of wages they can earn in the same cities we're using as a comparison for our management employees, then I will listen to this discussion openly. But until we have enough of an economy in this town to be able to afford that, I can't tell you how many police officers we've lost to the Bay Area. I remember a number of years ago we lost some fine officers, 2 of them in a very short time, because they tripled their wages by going to Redwood City, even commuting. So here we are using Merced in the valley for one group of employees, but we're using some of the richest cities in Northern California for another group of employees. I'm not pandering. I'm stating some facts that no one can deny. And my position stands. I'd like to call the question, Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Brooks, yes.
I just want to clarify something that was just said. If we're going to use Merced as our standard, our city manager's salary would be about $60,000 or $50,000 higher than what we're proposing to pay. And that's fine, but that study includes towns like Madera who don't pay as much as we do, and it includes cities like Gilroy and Morgan Hill, or maybe not Gilroy, but I know Morgan Hill was in there. But if we're comparing to Merced, I don't know that statement was based in fact. I know they're paying more than this for a city manager that they're looking for.
Yes, and twice our size.
Okay, Mr. Faria again.
Yeah, Merced is twice our size and a county seat. I'm not going to engage in any further discussion. I've made my points, and I'm ready to call the question. I don't know if anyone else is.
Mrs. Brooks.
I know Merced is twice our size, but you made that comparison with the CSOs. That's all I was saying. So if we're paying CSOs Merced salary, that's all I was saying. I would like to second Mr. Souza's motion.
Okay, 1 minute before we go, let me just make very clear. You said exactly right. Merced's salary is much higher than that. And it's something I think the people should clearly understand. If an employee leaves here and we have to rehire that employee, we will pay not that what we're talking about that we raise the salary to. We will probably have to pay at least $40,000 or $50,000 more a year just to attract a quality person here. Merced is much higher, and we all know the drive to Merced is not that far away. Merced was one of the cities that were very interested in stealing some of our employees away. And I will finish with this one comment. It is still not, it doesn't matter if you like the city manager because he takes care of personal favors that you won't taken care of. He can only be judged on one thing. That is that he does his job. And our city have seen some of the best years in the last 2 years ever. So that within itself speaks for itself that the man has done his job. So he has a right to be paid on the same quality level of other cities' comparable pay. And we're not even talking about the salary that's received in Merced. Okay, so we had a motion
By Mr. Souza.
by Mr. Souza, a second by Mrs. Brooks. We'll go to a roll call vote.
Brooks? Yes. Faria?
No.
Souza?
Yes.
Villalta?
No.
Jones?
Yes. Okay, motion approved.
Mayor, may I make a comment before we move on?
Yes, Mr. Souza.
We may disagree whether it's pending or not, but that's my opinion. That's what it is. And it has pitted certain groups against other groups, and it's a shame, I think, that we've put our city manager through this discussion. I think it is. Your own argument, Mr. Faria, about using Merced as a comparison, when it serves your purposes, you throw it in, and when it doesn't come in. I think that's a little bit disingenuous on that. And I don't know how teachers' salaries are paid, but I personally made the point, both administrators, and they just hired, the school district just hired a new superintendent recently. They had paid market rate to get him. They couldn't say, we can't afford it, so we're not going to pay, we're going to accept lesser quality. They paid to get the man who they thought could do the job. Okay, and I would wonder, and I'm only referring to the education because that's where you come from, and I understand, you understand that world better than I do, but I wouldn't accept educators who accept a lesser standard to get paid just because they live in Las Vegas. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
One last response.
Okay, one last response. Mr. Faria.
I use the Merced analogy because our line level, when we compare our line level with Merced, we don't compare our line level to places like Redwood City. And Merced's city manager is paid pretty well, but their line level employees are not when compared to the other cities, particularly those in the Bay Area, which have tremendous amounts of wealth. Los Banos has a median income in the population of less than $20,000 per capita per year, last I checked. In the Bay Area, you're talking about cities with median incomes of $30,000 and $40,000, and some of them, places like Los Altos and Saratoga, $100,000 a year. So it's apples and oranges. As far as teachers goes, for those of you that don't know about education, essentially this is the deal. The better the quality of life in the town, usually the lower the salary for the teacher, because they know they can draw in teachers through quality of life in the town without paying them as high a salary. The best salaries for teachers are in some of the most dismal places to live and work where the temperatures run to 125 degrees. I know when I first came to Los Banos, I shopped around for jobs and stayed here because Los Banos paid, to go to a place like St. Helena or Napa or San Luis Obispo, I would have taken about a 30% cut in pay. So that's the way the education world works. Also, the superintendent does supervise more people and a bigger program. So I just want to be very clear about what I'm saying, and I do not want to be called disingenuous because I'm not disingenuous, because the facts speak for themselves.
Okay, are we finished with that?
No, we're not.
Okay, Mr. Villalta, one last comment.
Mayor, twice you've referred to personal favors by the city that the city manager was unable to grant. I don't know what you're talking about.